Hi, I'm Krista Schaus, President and CEO of United Way of Central Kentucky, and welcome to our November podcast. We have a great guest, Kyle Souleyrette with Owen LaRue Financial, and he'll be speaking with our Director of Development, Andrea Hill, about year-end giving.
Thanks, Krista, for the introduction. I'm Andrea Hill, and today my guest is Kyle Souleyrette. He is a financial advisor at Owen LaRue Financial Group. Thank you for being here, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Today, Kyle is going to be talking about ways to give, especially now that it's the holiday season. People want sometimes to be able to give to charities,
Sure.
and I think that you, especially with your expertise, would be great. A great resource to talk about that.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially as we come into kind of the year end. Mm-hmm. You know, it's on people's minds, right? Year-end giving, whether that's because of religion or charitable reasons or just for some personal benefits, right? There's the idea of year-end giving. So there's really three main ways that I would talk about maybe today to focus on. And one of them is for our friends who are already in retirement age, and they're having to take the required minimum distributions from their IRAs or they're taking those RMDs. One thing they can do is what's called a qualified charitable distribution. So that's a QCD is kind of the vernacular for it. But what it does is it allows them to, instead of them receiving the money, then them writing a check to maybe the United Way or a church or some other charitable organization, it skips that step of the money going to them and then them writing a check to, wherever. And what it does instead is they instruct their financial advisor and they say, hey, I want to make a portion of my RMD or all of it or more than that even if they so choose, and I want to send it directly to wherever, maybe like the United Way. And so what that does is it makes the process just a little smoother really for them. And so instead of them receiving the dollars, they have to then write the check, they then get the donation letter from you all and all that. It just makes it a little smoother for them. It goes directly to the organization. And that way you get the entire lump sum of it all, and you're not having to worry about, okay, we got to check, we got to deposit it and all that. It just makes it a little bit smoother in that way. So that's a really good option and one that it's often underutilized by folks just as they're thinking about, how do I want to make some donations and that kind of thing. Another really good option that's also, I think, very underutilized are what are called donor advised funds. And so what these allow, if you've had a large gain this year, right? Maybe you sold a business or you sold a big piece of property or whatever else, and you don't want to maybe overwhelm an organization with a large influx, or you want to be able to do some planned kind of strategic giving over time. What this does, you can make a large donation or a contribution into the donor advised fund, and you get the tax deduction or the benefit there immediately, but then those dollars can be granted out later throughout time. So this is a way even as well to get your family involved and through generations, and as kind of a replacement or as an alternative to like a family foundation kind of deal. So the donor advised funds are a great idea. Especially for, like I said, if you've had a large event kind of thing in your life. So the other option would be as well, or in addition to, is gifting appreciated assets. And this kind of goes in line with the donor advised fund thing, but this would be before you make the sale. What you can do is if you have, let's say you bought something and just for instance, it's $100 and it's now $150. Well, instead of selling it, you're going to pay some capital gains tax and different things and then making the donation, you can gift that entire asset all at once. And so the organization receives the entirety of the amount, and then you also, again, you're not selling it and having some of the transaction deal and all that. So that can be a great option as well. But one thing that I think is really important to think about too in this is your family, and getting them involved, right? As whether that's young kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, whatever that looks like. And it can start with just saying, hey, here's a $20 bill, right? And let's think about and talk through where you want to donate this money, right? Because, and then as you have older kids, you can get into saying, hey, we're going to make some gifts as a family. and thinking we're gonna let's think through and talk through and getting your kids or grandkids, whoever, to think about that. Because giving philanthropically and being philanthropic is not something that most people just wake up and do one day.
Exactly.
Right? It's a muscle that has to be built and trained, and so we're very blessed in our community to have a lot of really wonderful giving people, but we have to keep it going, right? To keep it moving, because there's a lot of need as well. And so the more that we can all do to kind of bring up the next group of myself and even younger or ourselves really, the better off that our community and our world will be. But we've got to start somewhere. And so I think even like that little deal of just saying, here's a $20 bill, right? And beginning to kind of get those thoughts turning in their heads, I think is a super way. To build some family bonds, but also to get them thinking and going along as we kind of head into the holiday season,
Absolutely. I love that you touched on that with the families, because, that's something that I am always looking at, because I think it does start, you have to start young and kind of thinking about that and having that mindset of being charitable, getting involved, and really looking at social issues within the community and even larger. Right. So I love that.
And getting your hands dirty too. That's the other thing, right? Sometimes
100%.
You may not have treasure, but you've got time to give, or you may have both, but finding both of those things.
Absolutely. One thing that I love about United Way is that, we touch so many different areas of need. Our 3 pillars are education, financial stability, and basic needs. And within that, there's a huge variety of things that can be covered. And our own personal programs, like our community garden, when people donate to us, all of that goes back into the community. So it helps fund the community garden to be able to provide free vegetables, fresh vegetables, for those that maybe don't have the transportation to get to grocery stores. But we also work with schools, after school programs, and we do, we help with funding rent assistance, and as well as utility assistance. We also, food and legal aid society. It's just wonderful. And so when people donate to us, they're not just focusing on one, they actually get to touch many. And that's something that I think is extremely special.
Sure.
And very unique to United Way.
Certainly.
I did want to talk about legacy giving.
Yeah.
We actually just got in print our legacy brochure. And this is just something that especially the elder community can look into and really just kind of decide how they want to give, especially adding it into their will. It's just a really interesting concept, and I love that that's an additional way that people can give.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a number of benefits, right, to giving. It's nothing anybody ever wants to think about, but dying and passing away, right? But giving through that is a big piece of that. And again, that's where some of those donor advised funds, or just making the decisions about where you want the dollars to go upon your passing is an important step, and can have a large benefit even after your life is over on earth. Necessarily, you can still have an impact in your family as well.
Absolutely. And again, I think it sends that strong message to their family members too, that this is, what you should do. This is important. Yeah. Like, this is my passion, and I hope that you kind of continue that. Yeah. It's a nice idea. I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, Kyle, I want to thank you again for coming out here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You are always extremely informative, and we appreciate that very much.
Well, no, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.